The rain-slicked ramp was too steep, and as Jennifer's wheel spun uselessly, the umbrella she was clutching collapsed, soaking her silk blouse in an instant. She was 30 minutes late to a blind date. She never wanted to go on. She expected a man to be gone by now, or worse, to be sitting there with that look on his face, the look that said he was doing charity work by staying. But when Joseph Sparks stood up from the table and walked toward her, he wasn't looking at her wheelchair. He was looking at her face. And what he did next changed everything she thought she knew about love and revenge. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel, and it proves that powerful stories resonate everywhere. Jennifer Wilson sat at the table in the upscale Italian restaurant and watched Joseph Sparks interact with his daughter Alara. The little girl was 7 years old with dark curls and her father's warm brown eyes. She was showing Jennifer a drawing she made at school, a crayon picture of 3 people holding hands. One of them was in a wheelchair. "This is you, this is Daddy, and this is me," Alara explained, pointing at each figure. "I drew us at the park." Jennifer felt something twist in her chest. It had been 3 months since that rainy first date, and Joseph had slowly brought her into his life. He never treated her disability like a problem to solve. He never offered to push her wheelchair without asking. He never spoke louder or slower like some people did. He just treated her like a person, like someone he genuinely wanted to know. That was the thing that made this so difficult. Jennifer had expected Joseph to be arrogant or pitying or secretly uncomfortable. She had expected him to reveal himself as a fraud, someone who only dated her out of guilt or some twisted savior complex. But he never did. He was kind. He was patient. He was funny. His daughter adored Jennifer and asked when she was coming over every single day. Jennifer knew she should feel happy. This was everything she told herself she wanted for years after the accident. Someone who saw past the chair, someone who loved her for who she was. But the truth was darker than that. The truth sat in her stomach like a stone every time Joseph smiled at her. She had not stumbled into this relationship by accident. She knew exactly who Joseph was before their blind date. She knew he was a former rescue helicopter pilot. She knew he left a job 5 years ago after what he called a mission that went wrong. She knew because she had spent 2 years researching him, tracking him down, and carefully orchestrating their chance meeting through a mutual friend who had no idea what Jennifer was really doing. Because Joseph Sparks was a pilot who failed to rescue her 7 years ago. He was a man whose helicopter arrived too late to the mountain trail, where Jennifer lay bleeding after a climbing accident. He was a reason she spent 48 hours alone in the wilderness before another team found her. He was the reason she lost the use of her legs. Jennifer had planned this for so long. The idea was simple. Make him fall in love with her. Make him believe he had found something real and good. Make him introduce her to his daughter and start imagining a future together. And then tell him the truth and watch his world fall apart. She wanted him to feel the same helplessness she felt on that mountain. The same betrayal. The same loss. But now, watching Alara show her the drawing, Jennifer felt something she did not plan for. She felt guilt. She felt affection for this little girl who had already lost her mother to cancer 3 years ago. She felt something real for Joseph, even though she did not want to. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Jennifer said, her voice softer than she intended. Joseph reached across the table and took Jennifer's hand. His thumb traced small circles on her palm. "I know it's only been a few months," he said quietly, "but I want you to know that this feels different to me. You feel different. Like maybe I was waiting for you this whole time." Jennifer looked into his eyes and saw nothing but honesty. No hidden agenda. No secret guilt. Just a man who thought he was falling in love. She squeezed his hand and smiled. "I feel the same way," she lied. 2 weeks later, Joseph invited Jennifer to his house for dinner. Alara was at her grandmother's the night, and Joseph said he wanted to cook for Jennifer without a 7-year-old interrupting every 5 minutes. Jennifer agreed, even though her stomach felt tight with anxiety. The house was small but warm, filled with photos of Alara and her late mother. Joseph gave Jennifer a tour, showing her the paintings Alara made in art class, the bookshelf filled with fairy tales, the kitchen where he taught his daughter to make pancakes. Everything about the house told the story of a man trying his best to be both mother and father to a child who had already lost too much. While Joseph was in the kitchen preparing dinner, Jennifer wandered into his small home office. She told herself she was just looking around, but she knew what she was really doing. She was looking for evidence. She was looking for the file she knew he kept somewhere, and she found it. It was in the bottom drawer of his desk, underneath a stack of old bills and insurance papers. A manila folder with no label. Jennifer opened it with shaking hands. Inside were her medical records, copies of the incident report from the rescue mission, photos of the mountain trail where she was injured, news articles about the accident, and a handwritten note in Joseph's handwriting that said, "I have to find her. I have to make this right." Jennifer's hands went numb, her vision blurred. She had known, of course, that Joseph was a pilot from her accident. She had known for 2 years. But seeing the evidence in front of her, seeing proof that he had been searching for her, that he knew who she was before their first date, it made everything real in a way that research and planning never did. Their relationship was a lie. Not because of Jennifer's revenge plan, but because Joseph had lied first. He had tracked her down. He had orchestrated their meeting just like she had. He knew who she was from the very beginning. Jennifer felt like she was going to be sick. All this time, she thought she was a puppet master. She thought she was in control. But Joseph had been playing the same game. The original plan was supposed to happen differently. Jennifer was supposed to wait until Joseph was deeply in love with her, until he started talking about marriage or moving in together. Then she would reveal who she was and watch him crumble. But now, sitting in his office with a folder in her lap, Jennifer realized she could not wait any longer. She needed to know the truth. She needed to hear him say it. Jennifer wheeled herself back into the living room, the folder clutched in her lap. Joseph was setting the table, humming softly to himself. He looked up when he heard her and smiled. "Dinner's almost ready," he said. "I hope you like." He stopped when he saw her face. He looked down at the folder in her hands. All the color drained from his face. "Jennifer," he said quietly. His voice was shaking. "Who am I, Joseph?" Jennifer asked. Her voice was cold and steady. "Tell me who I really am to you." Joseph's hands were trembling. He sat down heavily in the chair across from her. For a long moment, he did not say anything. Then he took a deep breath. "You're Jennifer Wilson," he said. "You were 26 years old when you went climbing on Eagle Peak Trail. You fell 30 feet and broke your back. You called for help on your cell phone before the battery died. I was the pilot who got the distress call." Jennifer felt tears burning in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Keep going. We were supposed to get to you in 40 minutes, Joseph continued. His voice cracked, but there was a storm. The visibility was almost zero. I made a call to wait it out, to go in when it was safer. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought another hour would not make a difference." He stopped and pressed his hands against his face. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "But the storm lasted 6 hours. By the time we could fly again, we could not find you. The coordinates from your phone were wrong because of the canyon. We searched for 12 hours before we had to turn back. Another team found you 2 days later. You had been lying there alone in the cold for 48 hours. And by then, the damage was permanent." Jennifer knew this story. She had lived it. But hearing it from Joseph's mouth made it feel different. It made it real. "Why did you find me?" she asked. "Why did you track me down and lie to me?" Joseph looked up at her with red-rimmed eyes. "Because I destroyed your life," he said. "I made the wrong call, and you paid the price. I quit my job the next month. I could not fly anymore. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw you lying on that mountain. I spent years trying to find out what happened to you. If you were okay, if you survived. When I finally found you 2 years ago, His voice broke completely. He buried his face in his hands and started to cry. "I thought if I could just get close to you, if I could just see that you were okay, maybe I could forgive myself," he said through his tears. "But then I met you, and you were so strong and so beautiful and so alive, and I fell in love with you. I know I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I know I'm a coward, but I could not risk losing you. I could not risk you hating me." Jennifer watched him cry. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times. She had imagined him breaking down, begging for forgiveness, admitting his guilt. She had imagined feeling victorious, vindicated, free. But she did not feel any of those things. She felt hollow. She felt tired. And beneath all of that, she felt something she did not want to name. "You lied to me," she said quietly. "You manipulated me. You made me believe this was real." "I know," Joseph whispered. "I know. I'm so sorry. I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you let me. I will do anything. Please, Jennifer, please do not leave." Jennifer looked at him for a long time. Then she took a deep breath, and she told him the truth. "Listen, if you're still here, it means you're invested. You want to see what happens next. But here's the reality. Most people watch stories like this and scroll away without subscribing. They enjoy it, then vanish. If this story actually matters to you, if you genuinely care about how it ends, hit that subscribe button. It only takes a second. Otherwise, you'll probably forget this channel exists and miss all the other incredible stories I share." "I knew who you were," Jennifer said. Joseph looked up at her, confusion on his face. "What?" "I knew who you were before our first date," Jennifer repeated. Her voice was calm now, cold and steady. "I knew you were the pilot for my accident. I spent 2 years tracking you down. I arranged our meeting through Sarah because I knew she would not ask questions. I made you think it was a coincidence." Joseph stared at her like she had slapped him. "I don't understand." Jennifer laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Of course you don't. You thought you were the only one playing games. You thought you were so clever, tracking me down and pretending to fall in love with me. But I was doing the exact same thing." "Why?" Joseph whispered. "Because I wanted revenge," Jennifer said. The words came out sharp and bitter. "I wanted to make the man who ruined my life fall in love with me. I wanted to make you introduce me to your daughter. I wanted you to start imagining a future with me. And then I was going to tell you the truth and walk away. I wanted you to feel the same pain I felt, the same helplessness, the same loss." Joseph's face went completely white. He looked like he might pass out. "You were going to leave? You were going to hurt Alara?" That was the part that made Jennifer feel the worst. The little girl with the crayon drawing. The little girl who already lost her mother. The little girl who called Jennifer on the phone every night to say goodnight. "I did not think about her," Jennifer admitted. "Not in the beginning. I only thought about you, about making you pay." "So everything was a lie?" Joseph asked. His voice was hollow. "Every smile, every laugh, every time you said you cared about me, it was all fake?" Jennifer opened her mouth to say yes, to tell him that she felt nothing, that he meant nothing, that this was all just part of her plan. But the words would not come, because they would not be true. "No," she said quietly. "Not everything. In the beginning, yes. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being fake. I stopped pretending. And that made everything so much worse." She looked down at her hands, at the folder still resting in her lap. "I fell in love with you," she whispered, "and I hate myself for it. I hate that I care about you. I hate that I care about Alara. I hate that I do not want to hurt you anymore, even though you deserve it." Joseph was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "So what now?" "We both lied. We both manipulated each other. We both fell in love while pretending not to know who the other person really was." Jennifer did not have an answer. She had planned for so many different scenarios, but she never planned for this. She never planned to actually care about him. She never planned to want this relationship to be real. "I do not know," she said. "I do not know if we can come back from this. I do not know if love built on lies can survive the truth." Joseph stood up and walked to a window. He stood there with his back to her, his shoulders shaking. When he turned around, his eyes were red but dry. "I made the worst decision of my life 7 years ago," he said. "I chose safety over speed. I chose to wait instead of fly into the storm. And you paid the price for my cowardice. I have lived with that guilt every single day since then." He walked toward her and knelt down so they were eye to eye. "But meeting you, Falling in love with you. That was not part of some plan to ease my guilt. Yes, I tracked you down. Yes, I lied about how we met. But everything I felt for you was real. Every moment we spent together was real. My love for you is real. Jennifer felt tears streaming down her face now. She could not stop them. So what do we do? She asked. How do we move forward when everything started with a lie? Joseph reached out and took her hands. We start over, he said. Not from the beginning, but from right now. No more lies. No more games. No more guilt or revenge. Just two broken people who somehow found each other. 3 weeks later, Jennifer sat at the same Italian restaurant where she and Joseph had their first date. This time, she was not late. This time, there was no rain. This time, she knew exactly who she was meeting and why. Joseph arrived with Alara. The little girl ran to Jennifer the moment she saw her, throwing her arms around Jennifer's neck. I missed you, Alara said. Daddy said you were busy with work, but I was worried you were not coming back. Jennifer hugged her tight. The past 3 weeks had been the hardest of her life. After their confrontation, Jennifer left Joseph's house and did not answer his calls for 5 days. She needed time to think, time to process everything, time to decide if she could really do this. She went to therapy for the first time in 3 years. She told her therapist everything, the accident, the years of anger, the revenge plan, the way it all fell apart when she realized she actually loved Joseph. Her therapist listened without judgment and then asked her a simple question. What do you want your life to look like 5 years from now? Jennifer thought about it for a long time. She could walk away from Joseph and Alara. She could hold on to her anger and her pain and spend the rest of her life bitter and alone. Or she could choose something different. She could choose to forgive. Not because Joseph deserved it, but because she deserved peace. I was not gone, Jennifer told Alara now. I was just figuring some things out. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. Joseph sat down across from her. He looked tired but hopeful. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. They ordered food and talked about small things. Alara's upcoming dance recital, a project Jennifer was working on at the landscape architecture firm, the weather. It felt normal. It felt easy. But underneath all of it was the weight of everything they now knew about each other. After dinner, Joseph took Alara to the bathroom, leaving Jennifer alone at the table. She sat there and thought about how different this moment was from their first date. Back then, she was full of anger and plans for revenge. Now, she just felt tired. But it was a good kind of tired, the kind that came from finally putting down a heavy burden. When Joseph came back, he sat down and looked at her seriously. I want to be completely honest with you about something, he said. I have been seeing a therapist too. I needed to work through why I lied to you, why I thought tracking you down was the right thing to do. And what I realized is that I was trying to save you because I could not save myself. He took a deep breath. When my wife died, I felt like I failed her. I was supposed to protect her, and I could not. When you were injured on that mountain, I felt like I failed you too. Finding you and falling in love with you, it was not really about you at all. It was about me trying to fix something that could not be fixed. Jennifer appreciated his honesty. She reached across the table and took his hand. I need to be honest too, she said. I do not know if I can ever fully forgive you for what happened on the mountain. Some part of me will always wonder what my life would have been like if you made a different call that night. But I also know that holding on to that anger is not hurting you. It's only hurting me. She looked down at their joined hands. So I am choosing to let it go, she continued. Not because you deserve my forgiveness, but because I deserve to be happy. And I am happy with you. I am happy with Alara. I want to see where this goes, even if it started in the worst possible way. Joseph's eyes filled with tears. I promise I will spend every day trying to be worthy of that choice, he said. No more lies. No more secrets. Just honesty, even when it hurts. No more lies, Jennifer agreed. Alara came running back to the table with a breadstick in each hand. Look, Daddy, I'm a wizard, she announced, waving them like magic wands. Joseph laughed, and Jennifer found herself laughing too. It was not the perfect happy ending she once dreamed about. It was messy and complicated and built on a foundation of pain and lies. But it was real, and real was better than perfect. Over the next 6 months, Jennifer and Joseph worked hard to build something genuine. They went to couples therapy together. They had difficult conversations about blame and forgiveness and what it meant to move forward. They set boundaries. They learned each other's triggers and fears. They stopped trying to fix each other and started accepting each other as they were, flawed, broken, and human. Jennifer grew closer to Alara. She helped with homework and went to dance recitals and braided hair before school. She stopped seeing the little girl as a complication in her revenge plan and started seeing her as a person she genuinely loved. Alara started calling her Jenny and asking when she was going to move in with them. One night, almost a year after their confrontation, Jennifer and Joseph were sitting on his couch watching a movie. Alara was asleep upstairs. Joseph turned to Jennifer and said, "I have something I want to ask you." Jennifer felt her heart start to race. "What is it?" Joseph reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. He opened it to reveal a simple silver ring. "I am not asking you to marry me," he said. "Not yet, but I want you to have this as a promise. A promise that I will never lie to you again. A promise that I will always choose honesty, even when it is hard. A promise that I see you for who you really are, not the woman I failed on the mountain, but the woman I love today." Jennifer took the ring from the box and slipped it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "I promise the same," she said. "No more games. No more revenge. Just us, exactly as we are." Joseph kissed her, and Jennifer felt something she had not felt in 7 years. She felt whole, not because Joseph completed her, or fixed her, or saved her, but because she finally stopped trying to punish the past and started building a future. Their relationship would never be simple. There would always be a part of Jennifer that remembered the mountain, the cold, the 48 hours of waiting. There would always be a part of Joseph that carried guilt for the decision he made that night. But they learned to carry those things together instead of alone. A year later, Joseph proposed for real. This time, it was on the same mountain trail where Jennifer had her accident. She had been working with a physical therapist and could now use forearm crutches for short distances. They hiked together to the spot where she fell, and Joseph got down on one knee and asked her to marry him. Jennifer said yes, not because she forgot what happened, not because everything was perfect, but because she chose forgiveness over bitterness. She chose love over revenge. She chose to build something new instead of destroying something old. And as they stood on that mountain together, Jennifer realized that Joseph was not the man who ruined her life. He was the man who helped her rebuild it, not by fixing her or saving her, but by loving her exactly as she was, broken, scarred, and beautiful. What the single dad did next was not grand or dramatic. He did not sweep her off her feet or make everything better with a single gesture. What he did was show up every single day. He listened. He grew. He changed. He loved her through the anger and the pain and the messy process of healing. And in the end, that was everything. The wedding was small and intimate, just close family and a few friends. Alara was a flower girl, and she took her job very seriously. She wore a white dress with a purple sash and scattered rose petals down the aisle, like she was performing brain surgery. Jennifer wore a simple cream-colored dress. She did not walk down the aisle because walking was still difficult for her. Instead, she wheeled herself down while Joseph waited at the altar with tears in his eyes. When she reached him, he knelt down so they were at the same height, just like he did on their first date when he offered her his jacket. The officiant asked them to say their vows. Joseph went first. "Jennifer," he began, his voice shaking slightly, "I cannot promise that I will never make mistakes. I cannot promise that I will always say the right thing or do the right thing. But I can promise that I will always be honest with you. I will always show up. I will always love you, not in spite of your scars, but because those scars are part of who you are. You are the strongest person I know, and I am honored that you chose to spend your life with me." Jennifer wiped tears from her eyes before she spoke. "Joseph, for a long time, I believed that love was something that happened to other people. I believed that my accident made me unworthy of it. I believed that nobody could love me without pity. But you proved me wrong. You loved me when I was angry. You loved me when I pushed you away. You loved me even after you knew I wanted to hurt you. And that taught me something important. Love is not about being perfect. It is about being real. She took his hands in hers. I promise to be real with you every day. I promise to tell you the truth, even when it is hard. I promise to love Alara like she is my own daughter. And I promise to build a life with you that is messy and complicated and absolutely beautiful. They exchanged rings and kissed, while Alara cheered loudly from the front row. At the reception, Jennifer danced with Joseph. She could not stand for very long, but she could sway in her chair while he held her hands. They moved slowly to the music, surrounded by people who loved them. For the first time in 7 years, Jennifer felt completely at peace. Later that night, after the guests left and Alara was asleep at her grandmother's house, Jennifer and Joseph sat together on the back porch of their new house. It was a small place with wide doorways and ramps that Jennifer helped design. It was not fancy, but it was theirs. Do you ever think about what would have happened if we never met? Joseph asked quietly. Jennifer thought about it. If Joseph had not tracked her down, she would probably still be alone. She would probably still be angry. She would probably still be planning ways to hurt the man who hurt her, never realizing that the only person she was really hurting was herself. I think I would have stayed stuck, she admitted. Stuck in my anger. Stuck in my pain. Unable to move forward. Joseph nodded. I think I would have stayed stuck too. Stuck in my guilt. Unable to forgive myself for what happened. Jennifer leaned her head on his shoulder. Then maybe we save each other, she said. Not in some dramatic rescue kind of way, but in the quiet, everyday kind of way. By choosing to be honest. By choosing to try. I like that, Joseph said. He kissed the top of her head. They sat there for a long time, watching the stars come out one by one. Jennifer thought about how different her life was now compared to a year ago. A year ago, she was consumed by thoughts of revenge. Now, she was married to the man she once wanted to destroy. A year ago, she believed love was impossible for someone like her. Now, she had a husband and a stepdaughter who loved her unconditionally. The journey was not easy. There were still hard days when Jennifer woke up angry about the accident. There were still moments when Joseph looked at her and she could see the guilt in his eyes. There were still nights when they had to talk through their feelings instead of pretending everything was fine. But they learned that marriage was not about avoiding conflict. It was about facing it together. It was about being vulnerable even when it was scary. It was about choosing each other every single day, not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. 2 years into their marriage, Jennifer got a phone call from a woman named Sarah Chun. Sarah was a friend who set up the blind date between Jennifer and Joseph. She had no idea about the complicated history between them, the lies they both told, or the revenge plan that went sideways. I just wanted to say thank you, Sarah said on the phone. I set you two up on a whim because I thought you might get along. I had no idea you would end up married. I feel like I played matchmaker for a fairy tale. Jennifer smiled. It is not exactly a fairy tale, she said, but it is a good story. After she hung up, Jennifer thought about whether she should ever tell Sarah the truth. She decided against it. Some stories were better left between the people who lived them. Jennifer never forgot the mountain. She never forgot the cold or the fear or the feeling of being abandoned. But she learned to separate those memories from Joseph. The man who made the wrong call 7 years ago was not the same man who showed up for her every day now. People changed. People grew. And forgiveness was about accepting that growth instead of holding on to past mistakes. On their 3rd anniversary, Joseph surprised Jennifer with a gift. It was a framed photograph of the three of them, Jennifer, Joseph, and Alara, taken at the park. They were all laughing at something Alara said. Jennifer was in her wheelchair, but in the photo, you could not tell. All you could see was a family that loved each other. Below the photo, Joseph had written a quote. Love is not about finding someone perfect. It is about finding someone imperfect and loving them perfectly anyway. Jennifer hung the photo in their living room where she could see it every day. It was a reminder of how far they had come. A reminder that sometimes the best stories are the ones that start with mistakes and end with grace. What the single dad did next was not heroic or dramatic. He did not sweep Jennifer off her feet or fix all her problems. What he did was simpler and harder. He stayed. He loved her through the anger and the pain. He showed her that she was worthy of love, not because she was perfect, but because she was real. And Jennifer? She learned that revenge was not the answer. Forgiveness was. Not forgiveness because the other person deserved it, but forgiveness because she deserved peace. She deserved happiness. She deserved to let go of the past and build something beautiful in its place. In the end, they both got what they needed, not what they planned for, not what they thought they wanted, but something better, something real, something worth fighting for. And that was the greatest twist of all. This story teaches us that revenge and guilt are two sides of the same prison, both keeping us trapped in the past and unable to move forward. Jennifer's plan for revenge and Joseph's burden of guilt were actually mirrors of each other. Both were trying to control a painful past that couldn't be changed. The real transformation happened when they chose radical honesty and forgiveness, not because the other person deserved it, but because they themselves deserved peace and the possibility of genuine love. The lesson is profound. Holding on to anger or guilt doesn't punish the person who hurt us or undo our mistakes. It only prevents us from building the future we actually want. True healing begins when we stop trying to rewrite history through revenge or atonement, and instead choose to be vulnerable, honest, and present with the people in front of us. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is let go of our need to be right, to be the victim or to be the savior, and simply allow ourselves to be human, flawed, and worthy of love exactly as we are. So here's the real question. Did you subscribe yet? Thousands of people will listen to this story and won't subscribe. Please don't be that person. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My dad said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show him that these tales matter. Please subscribe to this channel, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. And here's what I need to know. Do you want part 2?